Welcome to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Mike Sorg, the podcast and media producer for the SAE Collegiate Design Series, SAE University Programs. And we are here to talk about a really interesting thing that came up with the Baja season this year that you've probably heard of it. What we've affectionately called around here as the tank car. And we're going to be talking with some people from the team here to find out a little bit more of the background around this thing that really kind of took everybody's interest by storm, I guess I could say, at Baja SAE Williamsport this year. Of course, back with me, you know him as the face from the CDS News Update, or maybe you listen to it on podcast form right here. I don't know, but Scott Schultz is with us.
It's good to be here, Mike.
Yes, and also the one wandering the sites with the microphone, asking the hardest of questions, like, what's your favorite oldie song?
And that's just a little taste of what I bring to SAE, dude.
That's it. We also have with us, and I'll let you guys kind of tell us what you guys do on the team. First of all, we have Bridget O'Connell is with us. How you doing, Bridget? And what do you do with the team?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I am the incoming president for the 2024-25 season for our Baja team. And so I pretty much I'm in charge of timeline now. I'm in charge of keeping everyone in line and definitely cracking the whip. So
So you're a little bit of the enforcer here, it sounds like.
Yep. I'm keeping everyone on the schedule, keeping them motivated, and doing all of the little technical and administrative stuff in the background also.
Noah Evans is also with us here on the line here. Noah, what do you do with the team?
Hey guys, thanks for having us. My name is Noah. I'm the public relations team lead for the Embry Riddle Baja SAE team. My job is pretty simple. I try and secure funding and make us look good on camera. So hopefully this is something that'll help that out a lot. So thank you guys.
No, thank you guys so much for being here. And Scott, I think you got the first question.
But I also don't think we introduced their school, which is, I believe it's Embry Riddle Aeronautical University. Is that correct, guys?
Yes. And we are, technically we are ERAU Women's Baja SAE, but we, because we used to be all female, but now we are just women-led, and we are completely co-ed, so anyone can join.
Nice. What made the switch to becoming co-ed?
So that happened when we acquired a senior design class on top of our team. So that switched us to co-ed, and we've been co-ed ever since.
We like to start every podcast with a let's get weird question where we just get to know you a little bit better. And we're just wondering, if you could be any letter in the alphabet, what letter would you guys be?
I would say Q.
Q? Why Q?
Because I feel like that's such an uncommon letter. And there's only one letter that can follow it, which would be U.
Very nice. What about you, Noah?
Ooh, I don't know. I think X is a good, X, Y, and Z. Those are all good good letters. They're not first, but they're definitely the coolest. So
I like it. I for sure was thinking you guys would go towards the top of the alphabet. You went towards the back half. I like it.
What would you pick?
I would pick, great question. I would pick R, because I think a capital R just looks like a strong letter, with the big curves. You can go real fun with it. That's me. What about you, Mike?
Never thought about this. I would go P, because it's the one that's the most problematic when you're doing a podcast because of the popping that it makes.
Also, I'd like to point out, you just said I would go P. So that's fun too.
Awesome.
Anyway, guys.
Let's get into the other questions here. First of all, for those that don't know, maybe they haven't seen a visual, maybe they're listening on the audio version of this podcast and don't know what we're talking about by when we say, quote, tank car. Can you explain to me what made your car so different than everything else we saw on the track at competition this year?
So essentially, we did a completely different drivetrain than what other cars would use. So typically everyone would have 4 wheels and 4 tires and drivetrain to the rear wheels and the front wheels in a typical sedan car fashion. We instead did a more simplified drivetrain, but then changed our suspension components to be our all-wheel drive. So effectively looking like a tank. It was a really fascinating like track vehicle. So we did do all-wheel drive, and we passed that check because technically our drivetrain was our tracks. So.
And what made you guys say, let's forget about the wheels, let's go with this new look?
That was a suggestion a while ago before Noah and I were both on the team. It was the team at the time was struggling to make a 4-wheel drive car with the proper drivetrain, I guess. And so the head of our mechanical engineering department suggested for them to think outside of the box, and instead of changing their drivetrain, how about they change a different subsystem to accommodate for the drivetrain. So that's essentially what led to the making of a tank, and it's been in the works for 4 years now. And so we finally got it to happen, and we got it to competition.
So obviously, like, we haven't seen one of these at the competition. I don't know if there's anything in the rules that's specifically, obviously not fully against this, or what were your kind of concerns when you did look at the rules in doing something so wildly different from what we usually see out there?
So when looking at the rules, there's nothing in there that says you can't do tracks or a tracked vehicle like that. There's many sections of the rules that also inspire like innovation. Like no one asks to innovate, they just do it. So I think that was our whole goal there. There's nowhere in the rules that specifically banned tracks. So that was kind of our motivation.
What was your expectation when you got on site? Like, did you think you would have issues with a tech inspection or anything like that, or at that point, or were you just like, we solved the rules as much as we understood them?
We knew there would be some kind of struggle with the tech inspectors because of our car, but we had justification for every rule that we were bending, essentially. So it was just a matter of if they would agree with that justification or if they wouldn't. So
you were ready to have a conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
That's good.
And before you made it on site to face these tech inspectors, were there any concerns when building or designing your car with this new look and new track?
Definitely, it was a big struggle. There was definite parts that seemed impossible to figure out. And the driver safety part of it, we really focused on because it's something completely different. So we really focused on making sure, even though it was a track, that ingress and egress was still a safe thing for drivers. And the other parts that were difficult were essentially the entire suspension system. Like we're also an aeronautical school, so we learn about planes and spaceships and cars, but they don't really teach many tanks here. So we were kind of in new water, uncharted waters, and there's nothing out there that there's no one that sells a high-speed tracked vehicle. There's reason for it, but we are now the new research base for it. So,
no problem. Did you know that your car would be such a crowd favorite at the event?
Honestly, no. I think that we were all pretty shocked, in a good way, about how much attention the car got. Just kind of showing up to the grounds there on the first day and unloading the car, just being surrounded by people, and really that was something that we hadn't prepared for. Bringing we were making makeshift barriers to try and keep people away from the car so we could kind of get all of our tools out there in the paddock. And, it was great to have people there. I will definitely say it was very overwhelming at first, but, kind of throughout the weekend, the attention, it was really nice to have people come and just ask us about the car. There were a lot of people who they wanted to learn more about kind of our design process, or I think kind of the hallmark question we had that weekend was why track. So it was great, and we really appreciated all of the people, all of the sponsors, the event organizers coming to the tent and checking out the car. It was really nice to have kind of that much exposure. But I definitely say it was a little hectic for the first couple days.
Yeah, for sure. I think we spent so much time in the shop, like critiquing every single little bit on the car, every single part of it that didn't fit right, or every single weld. And so to like come to competition and see how much people appreciated our work, it made us like step back and actually like appreciate our own work, which was really nice.
Mike, let me tell you about the SAE Sustainable Mobility Career Center. It's the premier career portal for sustainable mobility. Can you believe that?
I can't believe that. And in addition to having access to hundreds of job postings, you can also browse monthly articles and sign up for job alerts.
Well, that's almost too good to be true. From what I hear, it's the best place to find what's next for you after college. Mike, where could they sign up?
You can sign up at sustainablecareers.sae.org or just click on the link in the description of this episode. So obviously we know that you did get to run the car on part of the maneuverability track. How did you guys feel that were there that when you had there were chance of let them run and I think tank car or something like that? I'll have to go back to the footage. How did you feel when I don't know last time I've heard this much support for a single car on a competition like this?
It was really nerve-wracking, but awesome and exciting. Doing maneuverability was like a huge step. We were also having like some issues with our car as soon as we got there. We had an engine problem, and so they had to change our idle, our high-speed and low-speed idle, and then that messed up our throttle curve. So it lurched a lot more than we ever thought possible. So we were a little worried about maneuverability and getting up that first hill. But once we did, the crowd cheering was insane. I've never heard a crowd cheer that excited. Be that excited just see someone drive a little tank car. So it was really a great time. I had an awesome time.
Well, let's go back to tech inspection, because that was probably one of your biggest issues, right, on site. What was the whole process like when you had to go through tech inspection, of course, face Jason rounds?
It was incredibly tedious. So, I mean, for many cars, many teams, it's a tedious process for them, but more so for us, we had, I think, every single tech inspector looking at our car every time we passed through. So they started our first time around. It took us like almost 3 hours to get through tech. They used their standard sheet and then checked off what they could and gave us things to improve. But for parts of the sheet that weren't applicable necessarily, they kind of just ignored. And then when we came back through, we fixed everything, and they still gave us like a couple more things to do. And then when we came back the third time, we were there for another 3 hours, and they pretty much told us that we weren't as rule compliant as we would like to be, and that essentially the safety factors, not necessarily driver safety, but volunteer carnage crew personnel safety was the biggest problem with the car, because you can, if you're standing next to the track, you can physically put your arm or your foot through the track, which isn't necessarily something we thought about, because obviously that's not in the rules to think about putting your arm through a track. So we have to think about that for the future, but it was understandable, their concerns, which is why they had us run without any competitors, without any track personnel other than the tech inspectors themselves, just so that it would be as safe as possible and we could still run.
And when you said all the inspectors were looking at your car, was it because they were interested in your car because they didn't know what they were doing because it was such a new design?
It was probably a bit of both. I think there was a lot of the tech inspectors were interested and excited about it, but they were all very hesitant at the same time. So it was kind of a mix of emotions standing around our car. They were all like in a huddle surrounding the car, which was really interesting to see.
Yeah, you know it's probably not a good sign if they're huddling over your car. So,
Exactly.
Do you guys have any ideas on how you're gonna solve the open track issue that they had their biggest concern with?
So there's been some brainstorming of making more of like a fender for it. So we have like a small fender on it currently for the driver, but if we extend it, make it larger, then that'll help with covering the contents of the track. And then also we could add some kind of shielding on the moving parts of it, so that the shielding moves with the track as it rolls along bumps. And then there wouldn't be any places like larger than an inch or so that you could fit.
Oh, nice. So hopefully we'll see you guys doing some real running times, right?
I love that this process isn't over. Like you guys didn't go out and say, "Well, we'll go back to normal next year." You're actually still thinking about how could we get through this next year, or make this better, and that's really cool. So speaking of which, getting to this point, getting to competition, like what was testing like for this? Do you have a space to take the car out onto? What were you finding as you got into this?
We've done some small testing, nothing like the rugged terrain we saw at Williamsport, but we did.
And to be clear, Williamsport was a pretty gnarly track.
Yes. It was incredibly daunting.
Yeah, it's one of the craziest I've seen in a few years.
So we just did some small like grassy hill plain kind of terrain, and then a lot of asphalt just in our parking lot around school, just to tune our CVT and learn more about our suspension itself. So in the future, we're looking to get more rugged terrain testing in. But it was really eye-opening to see what was wrong with our components and where we would have issues, because we had no idea what it would do. Even though it was our design, like it was still such an unknown how the suspension would react, how the CVT would do, stuff like that.
I'm all about these inspectors and how they thought about your car. But are you?
Is this because you quote wrestled an inspector in the intro to the news program this year?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I love beating people up.
It is the visualization I have now as they're talking about their encounters with the tech inspectors. So thanks for that.
Well, we can cut that clip into the podcast video version of this podcast.
We'll do that.
Are you helping the tech inspectors figure out new roles for you and possibly other teams who want to use tracks in the future?
So we are currently in the process of discussions with SAE and the National Tech Inspectors to make a decision on whether or not tracks would be used in the future. So from competition, we had mostly positive feedback of, we want to help make this part of our Baja SAE culture and bring it to competition to actually compete this time. So right now we're working with them. We're giving them as much information we have on our car as possible, and rules justifications and connection back to Baja SAE history of innovative vehicles to try and give them as much information as possible so they can make a well-informed decision.
Are you making good progress with that, where you think everything will work out, or no?
It's hard to tell right now. It's taken me a while to get them all the info they needed, so now we're just waiting on them right now, but I think it'll be a positive experience and good discussion.
You kind of knew that you were going to have a lot of question marks when you got into the tech inspection and everything when you got to competition, and had those question marks. Is there anything for anybody that wants to innovate in this kind of fashion in the future on what you can do with a Baja car design? is there anything about talking to maybe the rules committee or anything like that? Anything that you would recommend so there's not as many surprises when you do get to competition?
The biggest recommendation I would have for other teams would be from SAE itself. They highly recommended that next time we send them a rules inquiry asking them about possible provisions that would be necessary to run a car like that, or if it's even allowed. There's nowhere in the rule book currently that says you need to like ask for permission to do something a little outside of the box, but we totally understand that they would have liked a little more warning. We sent in our design review briefing, which every team has to do, and that gets sent in like a month or so ahead of time of comp, but they don't necessarily communicate with the tech inspectors, so they weren't aware that we were bringing a tracked vehicle.
Did your team think maybe we should let them know and then just decide not to because they can't say no if they don't know about it?
Yeah, are we asking for forgiveness rather permission situation here, or?
Well, we thought, honestly, by the time I got there, I thought that SAE would already have some kind of idea. All of the other teams seemed to know that we were bringing a tracked vehicle, so it didn't feel like as much of a surprise as when we got there. They were incredibly surprised, so I wasn't expecting that.
And the surprise was on you guys that we didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I understand that, but hey, it's a big process for sure, and a lot of moving parts, a lot of people involved. I can understand how how that rolls, So, but you never know until you get there. You never know what you don't know. What whenever I do on-person events and things that I always have to worry about.
You guys made big waves in Williamsport. Would you be honored or a little upset if other teams start copying your idea and start using tracks instead of wheels?
What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, I'll hop in here. Honestly, I think that it was great that we got to go and kind of be the first team to ever do it. That's a great thing to kind of mark down in the history books. My personal opinion, if you're asking for it, I think that we can just be happy that we made a great design and it's impressionable on other people and they want to try and do the same. Really kind of the whole point of Baja, right, is that technological innovation, and I feel like that's something that we did a lot of this year. We brought to competition, and it was kind of a great way to show off all of our hard work. I think that sure teams are going to want to do it in the future, and we should be accepting of that. Of course, there will probably be a little bit of whatever if we show up at competition next year and everybody's doing tanks. But it's something we can be happy for other people, and there's going to be so much that comes out of each team kind of trying to do their own interpretation of a tank if they decide to do that. So I think if anything, it's just going to kind of advance the competition to a whole new level.
Wouldn't it be fantastic if we just have a whole tank division of Baja at some point here? Much like we separated IC and EV over Formula, they're just like Baja tank, Baja Mini, Baja SAE, Baja tank. Excellent. So you got to the competition. You got to actually run it on some of the track. And we would think we put the video on TikTok of that.
Real quick. Yeah, I think it's our most viewed TikTok.
I think it is our most viewed TikTok out there. Yes. So congratulations. You guys are the stars of our TikTok channel. Haven't seen what that track had in store, whether it be endurance or S&T or anything. Is there anything that with the design that you had, you really wish you had a go at? And is there anything that you don't think that thing would have handled that you saw on any of those tracks and obstacles over the weekend?
I wish we had a go at doing the rest of the maneuverability course. So, because we only got through like the first two obstacles and then had a problem with our track. So if we were able to like fix it and keep going, we would have done really well for the rest of the course. It was just the second obstacle where there's a super steep drop and then an immediate turn right. Our track couldn't handle that kind of load, but all of the super tight turns and the rest of the track we would have done really well at. So I wish we did that again. Anything else, Noah?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you about the maneuverability course. I mean, our car is so well suited for those tight turns that everybody was struggling with that weekend. I mean, the car can turn on a dime, so to be able to run it through the rest of the course would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, that's just not the way things happen. But we were grateful enough to be able to even go out and run the car. I was very thankful to SAE for letting us go out there, and all the fans, all the other teams, they really enjoyed it. Like you were talking about earlier, people came out in numbers to see the cars. So, we're just really happy for that.
Well, guys, I just want to thank you guys for being a couple game changers. I like it. I love the innovation, and I hope it inspires more.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was the biggest takeaway that you learned from this whole experience?
This is very specific to me, though. This is not a total team answer, I guess. But for me, doing PR this year, kind of a big takeaway from this was be able to market your ideas to sponsors, to other people, to fans, to other teams, and like we learned with the technical inspections to SAE, right? It's always kind of odd coming to people and trying to understand something or trying to explain something new. When I went and visited with sponsors to try and tell them that, hey, well, these cars, they all look the same and very cool, but this is a tank, and so you should let us put your logo on the side, right? We got rejected a lot. So I will say the kind of the perseverance through all aspects, right? I focused mostly on the sponsors, so that was kind of something that we just had to keep trying to push. But through just the technology that we came up with this year, pushing through and kind of have that never say die attitude, I think that was really kind of the thing that got the team to competition and got us where we are today.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think for me, it would be just the fact of like learning by doing. I believe that full-heartedly now. We are a rookie team. This was everyone's first time bringing a car to competition, so we learned a lot. We were incredibly underprepared, but that's how it goes. So even with all of like the praise and the sponsorship and everything, the whole point of us being there was to just try and to like share our ideas and share our innovation. I wouldn't have spent so many hours on this car, and neither would Noah, neither would the rest of our team, just for like any sponsors. So this was really for ourselves and for the rest of the Baja community, just to do something different.
What's next for you guys?
That would be Tank 2.0, hopefully, depending on the rules. Mm-hmm. So we are currently following like every other team does when they do summer design, summer like chassis design. So we are doing that for another dragged vehicle, just in the hopes that we'll have a rules change and we'll be allowed to run it. If not, then we'll have to do something else. But we are preparing for the best and the worst.
I like it.
I love it. Thank you, guys. This is again, it was a spectacle. I love what you brought to it. If nothing else, I think the sponsors. I mean, you can tell the sponsors is one of the most viewed things on our TikTok. So I hopefully that goes a long way for you for Tank 2.0 there. Thank you so much, Bridget and Noah, for joining us. And again, if you were just tuning into this for the first time, please make sure you do subscribe to the podcast, whether on your podcast catcher or, of course, we are over on the YouTube, SAE University Programs. And, of course, make sure you're following SAE University Programs on TikTok and Instagram as well to get all the updates, information, clips, and everything else so you're prepared for the competition and know what's going on in the world of Baja, Formula, Aero Design, and so much more. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Scott, for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me once again.
And we'll see you guys next time. Stay safe out there. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found at beyondthecompetition.fireside.fm. Remember to stay tuned for updates on your competition's newsfeed or app and follow SAE_University Programs on TikTok and Instagram. Stay safe out there and we'll see you next episode. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs podcast.